what my company does is modeling and simulation. So we had one contract that was $100,000 and we had 6 months. They liked it so much, they awarded us a phase 2. So then we got $750,000 for 2 years. And in the end, we ended up with a total of $850,000 to develop a project management simulation tool. See what the government agencies are asking for and just try submitting some proposals.
Today, we have Chris White, who is a small business owner. He has a vast background in government contracting. And most importantly, he's here to talk about some programs that maybe you've never heard of, like SBIR, or maybe you want to know more about, like grants.gov. So please welcome Chris to the channel.
Thank you, Kizzy. Thank you very much. Yeah, I've worked at big companies, little companies, have been in the government contracting business for a while. I've got my own small business right now. And I do want to talk about the SBIR program, Small Business Innovative Research, SBIR. It's a government program that is phenomenal for small businesses. And so I'm actually going to go to their website. We'll pull that up. I'll share my screen and I'll talk about it there. So let me now share my screen.
And I'm glad that you're here to talk about it because I only knew of it from when I was in grad school, and one of my colleagues was part of an SBIR effort with the Army in Orlando. And I've looked into efforts, but you are definitely hands down the expert. So I'm really glad to have you here.
I've probably worked on about 20 some odd SBIR projects. So I've got quite a bit of experience with them. So yeah, both at my own company, at previous other companies as well. So hopefully you're seeing my screen right now. And you see SBIR.gov, SBIR.gov. Some people say SBIR, so you might hear SBIR, but SBIR, Small Business Innovative Research. And there's a sister program to that called the STTR, Small Business Technology Transfer Program. And that's joint ventures with a small business and a university or nonprofit. But it's the same kind of stuff. I'm going to mainly focus on SBIR because that's really for the small business. And if you go to this site, they have finally collected everything in one site. What you'll see from here, there are 11 agencies that participate in the SBIR program. And an agency, if it has a certain amount of R&D budget, their tax basically, I think is like 2 or 3%. It goes into this bucket and it's this money that they can spend that's part of the SBIR program. And the Department of Defense is probably the largest agency in here. They're like half of it. So out of the $2.5 or $3 billion a year that's spent through the SBIR program, the Department of Defense is about half of it. So all these agencies, if I go look, you can see me on the website. You can get information about it. You can look at solicitations and things like that. But let me kind of back up and give an overview before digging into this too much. The purpose of the SBIR program, its sole purpose is to help small businesses create commercially viable products and services. So the government is paying you to create something that you are allowed to go sell. So what's different is most of the time when you do something for the government and the government pays you to do something, the government owns it just like you do because they pay for it. The SBIR program provides special privileges to the small business that protect their commercial rights in what they create. So, for example, when you do this, the government, there's a 5-year window where the government cannot do anything with what you just completed so that you have a 5-year head start to go commercialize before they can do something. And the idea is that by the time 5 years later, they only have version 1 and you're on version 10, right? So you know, there's no real competition. So that's the goal of it. And it does it through a 3-phase approach. The first phase, in any government contracting, there's got to be some competition. Rarely is there justification for a sole award of only, I don't have to compete this because there's only one company that does it. So phase 1 of the SBIR program is that competition. And there's 3 phases. So phase 1 is anywhere from 6 months to a year, a small contract, and anywhere from probably like $75,000 to $150,000. I think some of them are up to $250,000. So it's a pretty good chunk, but that's only a couple of people part-time. What you're trying to do is get past that phase 1 and get to a phase 2. In the phase 2 contract, you have now completed the competition part of it with the phase 1. So you can get a phase 2 with no competition. So if you did well, you move on to phase 2 if funds are available. Now, phase 2 is anywhere from like, say, 18 months to 2 years. And the money can be anywhere from $700,000 to $1.5 million. So now you've got a big chunk of money that you can hire people and do stuff. So phase 1 is sort of like a feasibility or proof of concept. And once you do that, the phase 2 is the prototype or the first version. And that's where they give you a lot more money. And then phase 3 is what they call commercialization. And that can be anything, any size. And it's usually not paid for by the SBIR program. You usually, like say, if you've done this for Department of Agriculture, it might be a division within the Department of Agriculture that pays to continue the work. And the SBIR program doesn't do that anymore. So it's 3 phases: a small project, a bigger project, and then commercialization. And so I'm going to go in here, and you can go and look at all sorts of solicitations. And this is where the agencies are telling you what they want for you to submit an application against. And usually these applications are anywhere from 15 to 25 pages. So they're small compared to most government proposals that you submit. So here's the first thing that's neat about this. I thought, if you didn't see, I'm under the funding menu, solicitation. And you can get a lot more information than what I've told you, but I've given you the overview. These are the agencies that participate. You've got Department of Defense and Homeland Security. Sorry, it took me a while to figure that one out. Department of Commerce, NIST, Department of Commerce, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Agency, DOD, Energy, Transportation, Education, EPA, Health and Human Services, NASA, NSF, National Science Foundation, USDA. All of them participate, and this is their schedule. So some of them actually solicit several times a year. Some of them are ongoing, some of them are once a year, some of them are multiple. And so you can see right here that in 2024, the Department of Commerce, NIST, National Institute of Science and Technology, is basically in the March to May timeframe. So that should be right now. If I were to go and look, they probably have a solicitation that's open that's going to be due at the end of May. And so I have time to do that. Here again, that was talking about the agencies. And by the way, each agency has its own SBIR website. So this is just the whole SBIR website bringing everything together. But each agency, you go to Department of Defense, USDA, National Science Foundation, they all have their own, and they're all slightly different. But again, it's all under this broad SBIR program. So I'm going to go look at the ones that are open right now. I'm going to view the solicitations that are open. And they'll give you this list of, here's what the solicitation is, here's when it was released, here's when it's due, here's when it closes, all that. And so it's very helpful. They got all the information right there. Some of the topics are very, very specific. So if I go to Health and Human Services, I'm looking at this one. It's called Harnessing Artificial Intelligence and Polypharmacology to Discover Pharma. I can't even say some of these words or something, but it's very, very specific. Others are a little more generic, where like Department of Transportation, if I go click on Department of Transportation, this round it only happens to have one topic, but I might see 20 topics there. It all depends. And now I can go to, there's a link to the Department of Transportation's page for actually doing this, where I can download the RFP requirements, and I know how long the proposal is and things like that. So this is just very, very informative. There's Department of Energy. I can keep scrolling down, and there's a lot of Health and Human Services. Here's the Department of Defense. And so it's all right there for people to look at. And what they want to see when you go for this, I'll stop sharing right now. What they want to see is that you have a good idea. So if they've given you something specific in the solicitation, what they want you to do is say, well, we can do that for you, Department of Transportation, but the world needs this also, not just Department of Transportation. You prove to them that there's a market for it, and that's part of the winning strategy, is you prove that to them. And you got to have a good team, you got to have a good idea, all that sort of stuff. And as a small business, if you can get a larger company to write a letter of support for you and put that as part of your proposal. So for example, when I would do things for Department of Defense, I might talk to a Boeing or a Raytheon and talk to one of the people there and say, well, could y'all use something like this? And they say, absolutely. So I say, great. Would you write me a letter that says, we endorse this technology. We'd love to see it in the market. We'd be very interested in it. And so that then helps the government make their decision that, hey, we got a good team. They got a good idea. Oh, and there's actually someone that may be commercially interested in what they're doing. So you got that. Anyway, your listeners probably want to go dig a little bit more, but that at least gives a short introduction. But the other thing I want to bring up is grants.gov, because that's another very good avenue. And so I'm going to share my screen again on grants.gov.
I just want to add, because this comes up all the time where business owners want to know about grants, and you'll see that this isn't exactly what you think, but it's even more valuable than you think. And I'll just hand it over to you.
It absolutely is. So grants.gov, just like SBIR.gov, is the collection point of all the SBIR types of grants and contracts. Grants.gov is a larger one. So within grants.gov, I could find all those SBIR grants are going to be in grants.gov. So it's an even bigger umbrella, but it includes everything. And what's amazing about that, so here I am at grants.gov, and you can search grants. Like, let's say I want to do something with project management. So I'm going to do a keyword search on project management, and I'm going to search, and it's got 66 pages of stuff.
Oh.
Well, I can be more specific and say, well, I only want the ones posted in the last 4 weeks. That's a little better. Now I'm down to 370. I don't want any of the ones that are forecasted. And you have all these options over here that you can select of what kind of funding instrument, the eligibility. So for instance, at eligibility, I would want to look for something, a small business one. So I might go down here and look and only get the ones that are going for small. There you go, small businesses. So I select only the ones that are small businesses. And you'll notice instead of 66 pages, I'm now down to 15 pages. And so it makes it a lot smaller. But now they have all the information you want right here. I can go click on any of these. In fact, some of these I noticed were part of that SBIR, but I can go click on this and it'll now take you and give you all sorts of documents related to it, when the due date is, the amount, like this one happens to be up to $275,000, all that. And then there's this package, and the package is the proposal package. And it'll tell you, here's all the things that you have to turn in, do all that. So if you think of SBIR, that's great. Then grants.gov is a little bit bigger. And now I want to talk about SAM, SAM.gov. System of Administration and Management. And so now I'm on SAM.gov. Is it showing on the screen? SAM.gov?
Perfect.
Okay. And so SAM.gov is even the bigger umbrella that everything is under. So grants.gov are only grants. SAM.gov includes grants, but also other contracting opportunities that may be more contract-based instead of grant-based. And so we went from SBIR, grants.gov, SAM.gov. So on SAM.gov, there's a little, it's kind of small here, but it says contract opportunities. Same thing, I click on that and I can go do project management again. I can go look for any contracts, and here it looks like there's only one that showed up, which I find hard to believe. I must have some other constraint on here somewhere, because usually it'll show up, 15 or 20 of these. But again, it's going to give me the opportunity. I'm going to see who the government agency is, how big it is, when's it due, what do I need to do for it. So I select it and it'll give me all my information about it. These are just great places to go. If you're a small business, at least once a month, I usually do it at the beginning of the month. I go to SAM.gov, I go to grants.gov, and I go to SBIR.gov, and I do searches for what I do on all of them, and just spend a day digging through and seeing if there are any good opportunities for me and what I want to do. Here I just put in project management. So it could be anything. But anyway, I highly suggest that to any small business is to go through here, filter so you're only looking for small business contracts, and do that. So those are 3 sites that are very important. I'd also say that SAM.gov is something, if you do any government contracting, I'm sure you've shared this with some of your audience before, any government contracting, you must be registered in SAM on SAM.gov. Your company must be listed. You're the contact at the customer. All this information about your company needs to be there. That's what allows you to do business with the government. So if you're going to consider any of these, the first thing you got to do is go to SAM.gov and get yourself an account.
No, I love that. And can you walk us through of the variety of SBIRs and grants that you've been a part of? Can you walk us through like 1 or 2 examples of projects so everyone has an idea of what, because we see the titles and for some it may seem like, whoa, but if you could just walk through it, that'd be helpful.
Sure. Okay. So let me stick with the project management, for example. What my company does is modeling and simulation. So we're always looking for so I'll usually pop on there, look for modeling and simulation and see what they're looking for, because we can do all sorts of stuff. But For example, the Department of Defense, DARPA, within Department of Defense, DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, they had one where they were looking for advanced mathematical techniques for improving project management. We said, great, we'll pitch to them the idea of doing simulation, not actually math. Well, simulation is math, but anyway, building a simulation tool. So sure enough, we submitted a phase 1 and we won. So we had one contract that was $100,000 and we had 6 months. So that was great. Then we successfully completed that and they liked it so much, they awarded us a phase 2. So then we got $750,000 for 2 years to develop the prototype for that. And in the end, we ended up with a total of $850,000 to develop a project management simulation tool. We even wrote a book about it and everything, so it's turned into something pretty unique for us. But that's an example. We've also done stuff for Department of Transportation, National Institutes of Health, Department of Education. We've done a lot of different things. So once you're, as a small business, you just got to get on those sites and search for things to see what's out there, see what the government agencies are asking for, and just try submitting some proposals to a couple of them and learn the process. And that's how you get better at it. And then your proposals get better and better. You may not win the first few, that's fine, but you learn from your mistakes and you make them better because they will usually provide feedback as to why you were not chosen. That's a good thing. So a lot of these grants and SBIR program, they're required to give you feedback to say, this is why we didn't give you, your team wasn't strong enough. You didn't have enough experience. You didn't show us that there was a commercial opportunity. They'll tell you why. And now you come back again later and you try a different one and you've now learned how to do it better. So it's a great learning process for small businesses. I can't recommend it enough.
Yeah, that sounds terrific because there are a variety of opportunities. Do you know how, on average, how many people tend to respond to SBIRs or grants?
So the numbers I had been given, is that about for a phase 1, and for grants as well, it's usually about probably a 10 to 15% success rate. So that means you're going to submit about 10 before you win one. You're not going to win them all. And so it's a very small percentage. But for the SBIR, once you get that phase 1, it's actually like a 50% chance that you'll get the phase 2. It increases significantly because all the competition has gone away. And so, for example, one of our SBIRs, it was for the Air Force, and it was to do some supply chain simulation. There were 20 companies that submitted for a phase 1. Us and one other company got phase 1s. So that's 2 of us out of 20 something or whatever. Then out of those 2, we got the phase 2 and the other company did not. And so there might still, but that wasn't really because we were better necessarily. Our group had funding, had money. This other group may not have. It doesn't mean that we were chosen between those 2. It means that either no one else wanted it any longer for that other company, or the group that they were working with didn't want to carry on or whatever. Or maybe there wasn't funding. And so anyway, doesn't matter, but your chances increase. And I'll say that across the board. Once you win your first grant or contract with the government, your chances of winning another one have gone up significantly. So the first one's the tough one, but once you get that and you show that you can play in that space, you stand a better chance of getting the next one because you know what they're looking for, you know how to write it. So
I love this. And based on what you shared on grants.gov, there were over 400 grants for small businesses.
Yeah.
There's no shortage of opportunities. It's just figuring out what aligns with you, how, and the same techniques apply as if you're bidding on a HVAC. You're finding organizations to partner with, or universities or people or experts to provide what they're looking for. Because I imagine that some of those grants, they may not have many submissions.
Correct. And some of them don't. They're like, why isn't anyone coming? We put it out there.
Right.
And so it's this great. In fact, there's a movie called War Dog that's got Jonah Hill in it. And anyway, it's about a company that dug through what SAM.gov used to be called FedBizOps, Federal Business Opportunity. But if you go digging all through, just like that, they found one and they ended up building this company, several $1 million and all this kind of stuff. Anyway, it's a very interesting story, but you're absolutely correct that the government agencies will put solicitations out there and no one goes for them. No one's looking for them. So yeah, plenty of opportunities.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah, I actually recently interviewed David from War Dogs. They're
Wow.
past gaps.
That's been funny that I mentioned that, but
It is, because he can now legally bid on contracts again.
Yeah. I'm surprised, but that's great. I'll know the full story. But anyway, I don't know enough to even believe to talk about. I'm just saying there was a movie, but building on your idea that there's solicitations out there that some people never find.
Right. I love this. And for those who may think, okay, this is a little too overwhelming for me, what do you suggest to them?
That's where the SBIR program comes in handy. So, for example, the National Science Foundation, NSF, Department of Defense is the largest dollar-wise, but NSF has the most type. Like, they're looking for everything. If you can just show them it's a good idea, they're happy with that.
Okay.
Well, so what they do is, before you submit a full proposal, you give them what's called a kind of a pitch deck. You just answer a couple of questions and they will come back to you, 500 words to describe it, 250 words to talk about the market, not that much. So before you submit 25 pages, they say, look, just submit this and we'll tell you whether or not we think it's worth submitting a full proposal. And they'll come back to you and maybe it's not, maybe it is, whatever, and you can do that. Also, with the National Science Foundation and just about any other agency, they will provide contacts, people's names, phone numbers, emails, and you can reach out to them and talk to them and say, well, we're thinking about doing this. Is that something that's of interest? And they'll say yes or no, or well, maybe, and you kind of talk back and forth, and they can help you refine what you want to submit and kind of help you through that process, because they want companies to get this, get these awards. That's what they're there for. And so before submitting a full proposal, you have these other opportunities of talking with people and sort of understanding whether or not you've got a good idea or something, so you're not wasting your time too much. But if you find something you like, the best learning is to just go for it and kind of see if you get it. And if you don't, take the feedback and apply that and go for another one.
I love that because it shows at the end of the day, they want to help and they want something that works for them. And so I strongly encourage those of you viewing, those of you pondering, to definitely look into this. And Chris, it's been a pleasure having you here. How can people get in contact with you?
It's easy. My name is Chris White. Throw a J in front of that. jchriswhite@gmail.com is an email that I use that people, if they've got questions, they're welcome to reach out.
I love it. And he's also on LinkedIn. Please connect with him because he is the go-to for SBIRs with grants.gov. Like, these are other platforms to take advantage of. There's monies there, and these are monies that the government needs to spend also.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a good point. These are budgets set aside. There's money there, and it is their job to get companies to take that money. And so they want that. They want to spend the money. It's already there. It's ready.
Right. So why not bid? Why not respond? Because as he said,
exactly,
if you win more, your odds are going to increase. Or if you win the phase 1, you have the 50% chance of the phase 2. And don't forget, there's a phase 3. So it's just a matter of you doing it, everyone. Just bid, take a look at everything. So again, I can't thank you enough, Chris, for being here. I'm so grateful to you. Everyone, I encourage you to reach out. I encourage you to check out the sites that he shared. If you haven't already, get my book at winnerswaybook.com. Like, subscribe, hit the notification button, and don't forget, everything is possible. Until next time.